Let's go.
You're listening to Making Data Simple, where we make the world of data effortless, relevant, and yes, even fun.
Let's go.
Hey listeners, welcome back to Making Data Simple. I hope everybody is healthy and safe. We're in some crazy times. I don't know when this will air, but as of right now, it's quarantine city. I'm recording in my office at home, and the guests we usually have guests that are remote, but they're at their office at home as well. But that brings on new challenges. Anyway, the great news about being a host of a podcast is that I often get to, as you've heard in the past, I get to pick my favorite guests. I've got another one today. Her name is Kate Nichols. I have worked with Kate for a long time. Yes, she is an IBMer. And Kate, the unique thing about Kate, she's got a lot of unique things about her. We'll talk about those in a minute. But she helped start this podcast with me. And then she decided to have a kid. And then she had to leave. And now she's back. But she is the reason that this podcast is here. Kate manages content design. And that includes a ton of different products, but like Cloud Pak for Data, which is our microservices architecture that you need to get if you're listening. It also includes Watson Studio, Watson Machine Learning, so where you build, run, deploy machine learning models, and she does the content for that. So anyway, I am thrilled to have you on and have a chat, Kate. Thank you for being here. How have you been?
Hi, Al. Yeah, it's wonderful to speak to you as well. And, as you mentioned, I did go on maternity leave and since come back to work, and I did follow the podcast. So you guys have been doing an amazing job and keep putting out such good content. So it's been amazing to see.
Have you really? What's your favorite episode that you can think of right off the bat?
From this year, I would say you did one early in the year with Rob Thomas.
Yep.
Talking about the year and what to expect and some learning that he had that I found pretty insightful. I think Liam also recorded one with you, right?
He did. That was the intern episode.
The intern episode. That's what it was. Yes. And that one was kind of fun as well.
It was pretty good. It was pretty good. We'll have to do another one of those. Now you're at home and you've got two kids, right?
Yes, I have a son who is 4 named Adrian and a daughter who's 1 named Sydney.
So we are in quarantine. Are they going to bust in at any time now?
That is the risk we have today, but I think they're going to be kept occupied. So we'll keep the listeners on their toes. We'll see if they come and join us.
That'll be fun. We'll have a good time if that happens. Yeah. I'm actually looking forward to that. Before we started the podcast, just before, Kate was like warning us, we may have visitors. I said, fine. That's what we're going to do today. That's okay. All right. So give us a little bit about your experience, if you would. Everybody knows that you know how to create podcasts, but what is your experience? What's your background? And how have you managed your transition to content design where you land today?
Sure. Yeah. So I actually, speaking of interns, I came into IBM as an intern I went to school at the University of Waterloo, did my undergrad there, and then later my master's. But my roles for the first basically decade that I was at IBM were in executive communications, often Al working with you, which is wonderful. And so in those roles, I learned a lot about how our business runs, how we communicate both externally and with our amazing team members, all the different things that it takes to put on the events that IBM runs. Really, I kind of look at it now as it gave me such a great foundation for what I do today, because I think it gave me a unique perspective on what we offer and why. But a couple of years ago, I had an opportunity to move into content design. And that really was aligned with what I had studied at school, which was around professional writing and communication design, and also allowed me to move into a management role, which was exciting because I love people, love working together to solve problems, address challenges. And so that was certainly something I wanted to do in my career. So I moved into that role, and I'm really enjoying working with that team. We've got a lot of interesting projects that we're driving, and some really talented people that I get to work with. So I'll share that today. I think we're going to get into a lot of those projects today.
Yes, great. Kate, I got to give you, I'm going to get, this is a compliment, and I guess I'm patting myself on the back because when I started looking at your background, I don't know that I knew that you had a Bachelor of Arts in professional writing. You've got a Master of Arts in communications design. I was sitting there thinking, I mean, maybe I knew that, but where I'm going with this is you have helped me with, you've done a ton around communications. You started this podcast. I mean, it's a perfect fit for content. But I think I just recognized how good you were at communications. I don't know that I knew that unless I'm just casually forgetting that you had that in your background. You're very well, you're an orator, you communicate very well. And so that you've always helped me. I mean, anything that I've put out, whether it's announcements or some of the keynotes I've done, people should know that you were right there. You did most of it.
Yeah, and I learned a lot from doing that with you. As I said, I think it was a really interesting role because I saw the support business, the development process from another side, and now I'm in a different role, but I'm bringing that experience to it. So I find working with the content design team, I'm sometimes bringing in a different perspective, but that's what we need, right? We need people who bring the questions that may not have been asked or answered previously.
I agree. We're going to dive into that. But could you have believed that when we started this podcast, we'd be at like 500,000 downloads in a year now? It's unbelievable.
You know what? I would say when we had the first few episodes, no, but then we picked up steam.
It's because I stunk. I was terrible.
No. It wasn't that. It was just, it was a wild idea, right? It was your idea, and it was just, different. No one had thought of doing it. And the first few episodes, we were all learning the ropes. But then I feel like even by the time we were maybe 10 episodes in, I felt like, okay, I think we're onto something here because this seems to be resonating. So it's been, as I said, wonderful to help it grow and then see it continue to grow even bigger than I, imagined it would.
And the things, I think it's a testament of, what I got to have to say, when we started this, anytime you do something new, you get a lot of naysayers. You get a lot of people that say, what the hell are you doing? And that's no different here. When we started it, a lot of people said, look, that's I don't know why you're doing that. It's for marketing. You shouldn't do that, blah, blah, blah. And, it makes you pause. And I appreciate you sticking with me. We said, to hell with it. We're going to do it anyway. And now those same people that were saying those things are now trying to get on the podcast or applauding the podcast. And it's one of those things where you kind of snicker in the background and go, really? After some of the comments that you made. And anyway, thanks for sticking with me, because otherwise we wouldn't be where we are today. Enough about us. The listeners are going to say, what the heck? This is like it. So we'll move on. And by the way, I want to talk a little bit about Property Brothers later. So if the listeners are listening, this is something unique to Kate. So wait till the end and we'll hit that. But first, let's jump right into content design. As we're talking about writing, communications, what was your motivation to switch to content design? And did you find that as an easy move? Was it a natural transition given your background, or no?
Yeah, so in terms of motivation, I think, one of the things I touched on was moving into the management role, in an area that I'm passionate about. So it was it's hard. I think anytime you make a career change or, move teams, it's hard. The team I was working with before, I love them and I'm still, in touch with them. So that's always a challenge. But I was excited to do something different. And I was excited to have different challenges. In that sense, it was easy because I was able to bring, I think, a kind of renewed energy to what I was doing day to day. I think the challenge that content designers face is there is just a ton of information that we have to consume, understand, and then be able to explain to our clients. And not only that, we have to deliver it in, many different ways and for, a huge variety of products when we talk about the data and AI portfolio. So there's just so much going on that I think that is what brought the challenge.
So let me ask you this. So for our listeners, here's my simple question. I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but I want you to tell us, what is content design? How do you define it? and why should anybody care? And one reason I ask that is because a lot of people think content, oh, look, but then when it doesn't work or when it's not there, they go absolutely crazy. They call it urgent. They call it critical. They escalate. You got to get that right because it's around usability. But I'm not going to give the answer for you. What is content design? How do you define it?
Okay. So I would say, content design is the words that you encounter when you're using a product. So that can include and does include when you are working within a product, the words or experience that you have on the interface itself. It can include the documentation that you might consult if you have a problem. It could include videos or tutorials that you access to get deeper and learn more about the product, or again, to solve a problem. It could be what is feeding your chatbot when you go and have an issue. So content is really a layer of information that we try to provide to make the product more usable, accessible, and ultimately more enjoyable for our clients.
I think a lot of people look at content design and they're thinking documentation.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that can't be farther from the truth. Yes?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, documentation is the core, I think, and remains the core. But that core of information allows us to build a lot of really interesting solutions.
The other thing, and I'd like you to expand upon this, the reason you guys have excited me when I ran content design, first of all, we called it cognitive content design at one point or another.
Mm-hmm.
And the path that we were on and are on is let's see if I can get this right, but UI embedded content, if you will, interactive self-help within our products. We wanted to crowdsource some of the help needed that comes along with our products.
Yep.
And then we want to generate AI content on the back end that makes its way back to the front end. I don't know. Hopefully everybody understood that. Could you maybe, you're better communications, obviously, than I am. So could you better communicate that strategy? Because I think it's a fantastic strategy.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the ways that I approach it and I think about it is the what I said is the core, which is the documentation. For example, in IBM, we have the Knowledge Center or IBM Cloud Docs, depending on your product. But that contains, a huge, vast collection of information about a product. So you could access that through the Knowledge Center or for Cloud Docs. But what we're also doing is using that data in really interesting ways to feed other solutions. So, for example, a chatbot can actually pull in that data, and then you can ask a question. And so instead of searching a knowledge base, you can find that answer through a chatbot. Another solution that we're working on is what we're calling in-app contextual content. So that by in-app, what we mean is bringing that product, that knowledge base into the product itself, and then allowing our clients to access it without having a different experience. The other piece of that is being proactive with it as opposed to reactive. So what we're doing is instrumenting the products in a way that they know and essentially tell us what the client is doing. And so the content that we offer, again, within the product is relevant to that specific area of the product. So if you're, for example, building a model in Cloud Pak for Data, we're giving you information about how to build models. We're not, just offering the getting started pane. We're knowing what you're doing and trying to give you the information that will make you even more successful. So I think that's another way that we're, again, building on that core, but trying to offer those deeper, richer, more intuitive experiences.
How much does the new world of content design surround instrumentation within the product itself?
Well, it is important because if we talk about something like the context-aware example that we just mentioned, we can only serve up the content relevant to where you are in the product if the product is essentially, letting us know where the client is. So there has to be instrumentation part of the development process in order to build this out. And we have, we work with amazing development teams, but we also have some really skilled people in the content design team who've gotten involved to do some of this instrumentation and move these solutions along. So it's really like a partnership, I would say, between development and content design, as well as the core design teams and offering management when we are, offering these kind of solutions in our products.
Where to that point, where does content reside? In the framework of my question is it closer to development? Is it closer to doc?
Yeah.
Or is it closer to design?
Yeah, good question. And I would say that can vary a little bit product by product, but within our organization, we've got this concept that we call 4 in a box. And so what we mean by that is that for every product, there should be, 4 teams essentially represented in the box, that being, design, development, offering management, and content design. And so when you bring all 4 of those perspectives together, I think is when you're going to build a really, really exceptional product. In some cases, we may have more of a need to work with design, right? Because that's the phase of the product development that we're in. Or, we may be working more with offering management for a very early stage. So those 4 teams are critical. And then how much we work with each one varies as we move through the development process, I'd say.
Do each one of those 4 in a box have an equal seat at the table?
That's what we're working towards. I would say not always at this point, to be, very candid. I think that we're working towards that and we are getting there. But historically, I would say that's been one of the challenges for content design.
Why do you think that challenge exists?
I think sometimes, if you look at traditional content, if we're not delivering something that's within the product itself, then sometimes it can be easy to not have it be part of that conversation, or not for anyone's intentionally leaving it out, but just because, it's not always inherently part of the development process, right? And so, that has been a challenge, and we're making, as I said, a lot of progress on that. We're included in conversations really early. We can add our expertise. I mentioned things like the UI design reviews, content is part of it. And we can provide really, really valuable feedback from essentially the very early stages of designing and creating the first views of the product through design.
Well, I think look, we're looking for honesty here, first of all.
Yeah.
But I think when you're in a culture of valuing deep technical contribution, a lot of times it slants in that direction. But one thing I would give IBM over the last 5 years, I would say there has been a huge move towards design, and that gives immediately gives a high seat at the table for content, because that's part of that design, the product design. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good your tech is, if clients can't get it to it simply, intuitively, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
And I think we've essentially embrace that, and that's why we're seeing the motivation to really promote things like content design, etc. What do you say when somebody, and I know you've heard this before, when somebody comes and says, "Hey, look, Kate, all good," and I'm sure there's people out there listening saying this in their head too, all good, but if the product is just as intuitive as we can make it, you don't need content. You're good. You don't need it. The product does it for you. What do you say when somebody says that? I
would say, if you really have a product like that, content has already been involved. Content design has already been there. If someone's using a product and they're saying it just works so perfectly, so easily, I have no need to reference anything, then I don't think there's any way to get to that point without having content design as part of it.
That's actually a great answer. So I think those people are thinking content of an old traditional legacy style where it's more like manuals after the fact.
Yeah.
You're saying, look, content done right is in the build process. It's done from step one.
Yeah.
It's built into the product. That's the only reason why they would ever have an intuitive product.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, we've had many examples, and as you said, IBM design is amazing, and they create, fantastic UIs that we get to look at. But there's definitely been times where we've been able to come in, specifically focused on the wording, but we're able to provide even a deeper level suggestion than that, because really it doesn't always make sense, intuitively, but we want to write fewer words. That's what we want to do. We want those intuitive UIs such that we don't need a lengthy explanation of what someone needs to do in order to get what they need to get done. And so if we are providing a suggestion and we say, this is just too hard to describe, we're trying our best, but it's just not working, then we can go to that next level and say, well, maybe there's even more that can be done. And then that goes to the partnership with design to say, okay, how can we rework this? And so there's been many examples where we've had that kind of influence as well.
So for anybody out there that's listening and say, why would Al have content on the podcast? I think you just nailed it. If you don't have content in your product, you don't have a product.
Yeah.
That's why you're here. So how do you define success then, though? What's the definition of success in content design?
That's a very good question. So I think, we define success often in similar ways to how the product itself is successful. We look at NPS, Net Promoter Score, and the feedback that's given. And, with many of our products, we get the specific content feedback sent to us so we can make changes and improve. But we're successful when the product is successful. And, the product needs content to be successful, as you just said. So there's certainly that measure. One of the projects I'm actually working on right now for Cloud Pack for Data is trying to develop a content-specific scorecard. And when I say, content in this context, what I'm meaning is not just the technical documentation, but all of the different things that are created by, for example, there's marketing creates content, there's learning resources, there's the content that, the people that I work with create, and then there's, several other people and teams generating things. And our goal that we're trying to drive is a cohesive experience, so that someone accessing any one of these various types of material would feel like they're reading from the same book. It's not written by multiple different authors, it's coming as a cohesive package. And so there's other ways that I'm kind of challenging myself right now to try and figure out how do we see the success or failure of that when you look even more broadly from the technical content, but into the whole, the product as a whole.
How long have you been in content design now?
It was 2017, actually, that I moved in to the org. But then I was, as you mentioned, I was gone for 1 year on maternity leave.
Well, you got the strategy figured out. I like it.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I just want to make sure, it's not just me. My manager, High Nutran, and fellow managers and leads, and, the whole organization is part of this. I'm just here representing the team.
Yeah. No, I fully respect that. And it's just like you, Kate, to make sure everybody gets their share of recognition. Good for you. So do you take a lot of what you gain, the knowledge you gain, and push it back into the product for optimization? Do you end up influencing feature and function?
I think we do. So, for example, just today, I had a meeting with one of our product teams with my colleagues, and we are trying to build out the idea of this context-aware content that's available within the product. And so we're having those early discussions and saying, this is what we've learned from doing this in other areas. We think it would be very beneficial for this product. Here's how we plan to build it. Here's why we think we should build it. And then we can move forward from there. And so we're always learning, and, what we build is always, unique for a certain scenario, but we're looking for the way we can then let that, jumpstart us onto our next project. As, anyone who's in a development process would know, there's a lot of competition for what goes into every release in a development cycle. And so we have to make the case that, content is important enough and needed enough and valued enough that it should be part of, a release of these products. And so that's where that's where we're headed. And, sometimes we have success, other times we have to wait or refine our plans, but that's how we kind of continually push forward.
Any examples of how we're using our own cooking around data and AI to inform or drive content design?
So, one, it's actually a little bit outside of my team, but someone who I've been learning a lot from is the content design manager for Cognos Analytics, Jay Shaw. So he's actually built this, what I've been talking about, this in-app content. He's built that out with his team over a number of years. And the solution that they've got, it's really awesome. I'll see if I can get a link to some information about it that maybe you could put in the show notes for your audience.
Fantastic.
But yeah, that team has really, I think, built like a best in class solution. We've worked on this in a few different ways, over the years, trying to bring content into the products. But I think what they've built is a really great example. And so that's what we're now moving forward with.
Very good. Hey, look, is there anything in content design that we did not hit on that we missed that you want to make mention of?
Like I said, I think that it's changing a lot. I think some people have a perception that content designers are not technical or not, part of that technical team. And, I would definitely counter that. I think our team members are incredibly, deeply technically aware, and a lot of them have deep technical skills as well. And so it's a really challenging, interesting and fun area to work in. And I think it's, as I said, completely, important to the success of every product that we have. And so that's what keeps us, that's our why. You've often challenged me, what's your why? But that's part of it for us, right? That's why we keep, going every day and working and delivering, new ways for people to access this information.
So Kate, what I have to say that what I have learned on content design, and you've helped teach me, is that to your last point, a lot of these folks in content are very technical. Mm-hmm. And amazingly enough, they know more of the product sometimes than the developer. And you'd say, well, how can that be the case? It's because they are looking at the product holistically and working with design. And while a developer may be in a certain area of the code. So to your point, a lot of these content folks know the product end to end, and look, they're very technical.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, so a couple things. I want to pivot here and talk a little bit about Kate, if you're okay.
Sure.
Just to end, you pause. You give me a sigh there.
No. I said sure. Let's do it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. First thing is, and I'll transition, but I know you do a lot around IBM STEM for girls in the Toronto lab. How did you get involved, and what kind of offerings does IBM STEM for girls have?
So IBM STEM for Girls, it's a kind of a mission that's been adopted by IBM Canada. I guess that's one thing we haven't mentioned yet, is that I am a Canadian IBMer.
Yes.
And
we won't hold that against you.
No, that's supposed to be a good thing.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, so it's across our whole Canada lab, which spans, the whole country. But it's kind of a mandate that we had to offer STEM programming, so science, technology, engineering, math, to young students, specifically girls. Research shows that often girls pivot away from math, science, and technology around grades 6 and 7. By the time they hit grade 8, they may have, either changed courses or don't, believe that they can anymore in terms of achieve in those subjects. So our goal is to kind of reach them before that point and make sure that they're exposed and have successful and fun experiences with technology. So I've been involved with it for, I'd say, over 10 years. I've lost, exact count, but it's definitely been over 10 years in various roles. But over the last few years, I've been working with my colleague Lindsay Martin, and we lead the work that we do at the Toronto site in the Canada Lab. So our biggest thing that we offer is a week-long camp that we run every year in July or August. We bring in 25, though we're actually planning to grow that to 50 this year, students, and we give them a week-long education in STEM. So this year we're planning to do it like a hackathon. So they'll do design thinking exercise, they'll do the actual coding in Python, and then they'll present their solutions at the end of the camp. So we're really hoping with the current state of the world right now that we will still be able to offer that this year, but right now we're still planning for it.
Nice. Well, I know you spend a lot of time with it and donate a lot of your time, particularly when you got two kids at home that are trying to grab your time. So
yeah,
it's appreciated. So let's talk a little bit more about Kate. As you know, look, you're a people manager. Any tips, hints, tips you can share as you work from home in this crazy environment that we have? And I know you said to start, you've got two little ones running around. How are you able to divide and conquer your time?
Yeah, so there's two things to that question. So in terms of dividing and conquering time, I think, my husband and I have been sharing the childcare and the working responsibilities. So we've been basically, splitting the work day, and then we both work in the evenings and a bit on the weekends in order to get things done. So that's been essential. Otherwise, I would not.
Because the kids are at home, right?
They're at home. Their schools are closed, and there's no real option for other childcare because, we're being encouraged not to really, have other people in the home right now, just with the COVID-19 situation. And so, yeah, they're here, and they are 1 and 4, so they're not at an age where they entertain themselves. Specifically, my daughter actually started walking during this time when we've been isolating at home, which I felt was a big silver lining, because had that not happened, she would have done first steps at daycare, but instead she was here and we all got to see them. So that was really nice. But anyone who's had, a child who's first walking knows that they have to be, you have to watch them all the time because they're falling everywhere.
Yes.
So it's hands-on, it's hands-on when you're with them. And then, at work.
So are you doing homeschooling or anything? Is your husband doing homeschooling?
So it's funny you say that too, because I started this idea to say, okay, we're going to do this homeschooling idea and we'll make a schedule. And then that went out the window within a couple of days. And then, I saw something shared on one of the social media platforms that said, all life is learning. Just enjoy, have fun, bake, spend time together, do projects, get outside as much as you can. And so I've kind of taken that philosophy since that point. So we are doing activities like, we did crafts today and baking and got outside in our backyard. But we don't have subjects or specific goals. I mean, my children are also very young, so I know that if they were a bit older, I might take a different approach.
So do you split time between the day, your husband, like he'll take half a day and you take the other half?
Yeah, we're kind of doing like an 8 to 6. One of us works 8 to 1. The other works 1 to 6. And then we're being flexible. There's been occasions when we have to vary that, but that's sort of how we're trying to work it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I have to say that the interesting thing about this, I mean, look, I never want to say what we're going through is good, because there's a lot of people that are struggling with health, and I'm empathetic about that. But when I walk outside in the neighborhood now, there are more kids outside playing than I can ever remember.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's like it feels like when I was a kid. When I was a kid, you didn't have year-round sports. Now it's like everybody has to be planned. You got to be in, formal baseball, formal football. It's year-round.
Yeah.
These kids are outside playing. They're playing all kinds of different games. I mean, it's like crowded outside now. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I was saying that actually to my husband. I'm saying one of the lasting effects of this for us might be that we prefer having more unscheduled time, because when you're normally going, dropping off to daycare, getting to work, getting home, getting dinner on the table, and then activities, and then weekends are busy, you don't have a lot of time where you're just unscheduled. But it's actually very nice in a way to have under different circumstances, having that kind of flexibility is really, really nice for our family.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of changes in families. I worry a little bit about the travel industry, because I think a lot of these companies are going to find out that a lot of work can actually be done at home where it wasn't before. But we'll see. Sure. We'll see. I do think it's going to have a lasting effect. in many different areas. Hey, talk to us about Property Brothers. This is, I think it was a few years back now. You're still in the same house. Well, why don't you tell? I thought that was always a setup show, but then I talked to you and said, no, I've been on Property Brothers. And I actually watched the episode.
Yeah.
It was a very good episode, by the way. So tell us a little bit about that. I'm sure the listeners will have an interest in how you got involved and what Property Brothers really did and what they didn't.
Yeah, sure. So it was actually now quite a while ago. It was back in 2012 when we did the show.
Oh my goodness.
I know. It's been a while. But yeah, so we live in sort of downtown, but East End, Toronto, and the Property Brothers happen to be working in this area. I think they don't really work here so much now. I think they are more in the States, but it just worked out that we were looking when they were, they had an ad actually on Facebook that they were looking for people to work with. And I just applied, assuming it would never happen. And lo and behold, it did. So yeah, we ended up buying a house from a woman named Doris who had been in the house almost 70 years. And it was a lovely house, but it needed some updates. And so they did the main floor. And then since then, we've done all the rest of it either ourselves or we've, hired other people to help us do the rest of it.
Now, how often did you see the Property Brothers, the real Property Brothers?
We saw them, I'd say it was like 7 or 8 times probably total.
Oh, really? That's more than I'd expect.
Yeah, it was, they like it would be on a schedule of when, when we were seeing them or doing, whatever scene with them. But they were there, and I have to say they were extremely nice and knowledgeable. I think they are both master carpenters, or I forget the exact qualifications, but they both do have, a lot of skill in the real estate and the, home renovation area. So they're super busy. They can't do all the work themselves, but they know what they're doing.
Your family's gotten bigger.
Yep.
Are you, you're still in the house, obviously, but now are you thinking about, you've done all this work in the house,
yeah,
but are you considering other locations? Or are you saying, no, this house is going to be with us forever?
Well, you know what, in our ideal scenario, we will never sell this house until maybe, well, one day we would, but not anytime soon. But if we decide to move to a different house, we would like to keep this house and rent it to another family. But that, that's kind of our dream scenario. I don't know if that will be what happens, but that's sort of our plan because it's very good location, beautiful home. We love it. We would hate to see it go. So if we kind of outgrow it, that's what we're thinking we would do.
All right. A couple more questions, then a quick game. I just want to get to know you a little bit better. What's your favorite food?
Favorite food? Oh, good question. Mint chocolate, specifically mint. Mint chocolate.
Mint chocolate.
Yeah.
So you're going for ice cream?
I do like mint chocolate chip ice cream, but any kind of mint chocolate, I will take it.
Nice. All right. Last gift you gave somebody.
Ooh, what did I give them? Oh, we gave our neighbor tulips last week. My son picked them out, and we dropped off tulips to our neighbor.
There you go.
Answer, yeah.
What was Kate like in high school? Were you the partier that has settled down, or were you kind of the nerd that got smart and made it big like you are now?
Well, I'll tell you, in my yearbook, I was voted nicest. So that was good. So I would say I was pretty friendly with a lot of people. Not the coolest, but I went to some parties for sure.
You're the coolest now. That's what I tell everybody now. You had 3 years. I have like 97. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. Your number one role model not related to you.
Number one role model not related. Ooh.
You know how I do these podcasts.
I do know. And I did try to think ahead of what book I'm reading.
It's harder than you think, isn't it?
I know. Someone not related to me. Let me think. I would say I have a group of friends who I went to university with and lived with. All, happen to be women around my age. and they are all successful in their careers, doing really interesting things. A lot of them have gone back to do masters and PhDs, and they collectively they're definitely role models for me. They keep me motivated, keep me grounded, keep me, in touch with what's important.
Well, they say you can judge what kind of person you are by the folks that you surround yourself with. So there you go.
Yeah, and we're all distant from each other now. So we use technology for this kind of communication. So that's kind of neat too.
All right, here we go. Lightning round. It's this or that.
Okay.
Would you rather, whatever you want to call it. You probably have heard this if you listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm gonna run through these quick. You can give one statement, but we'll go quick. Canada or the U.S.?
Canada, 100%.
Okay, I'll let you have that one. Work from home or work in the office?
Work in the office.
Write or design?
Right.
Ontario or Toronto?
Toronto.
Ottawa Lab or the Toronto Lab? That's an easy one.
Toronto Lab.
Yes,
Though Ottawa's very nice too.
Ski or snowboard?
I'm a skier.
You're a skier. I don't even know the I don't know if I can pronounce this. This is what the producers gave me. Butter tart or poutine?
Okay. Yeah. So those are two Canadian foods. So a butter tart is a pastry that is filled with a filling that's like brown sugar and I don't exactly know everything that goes into it, but it's sort of a sweet, could have raisins or pecans in it. And then a poutine is French fries with gravy and cheese on top.
Oh, I know which one I'm going with.
I'm going to go poutine.
All right.
Yeah.
That's probably neither of them are healthy, I got to believe,
No.
but poutine's probably worse.
No, most of our Canadian traditional foods are not the healthiest, but they're very tasty.
There you go. That's life. That you just described life in a short statement there. All right. Watson Studio or Watson ML?
Ooh, they're very tied together, but I'll go with Watson Studio.
Hybrid cloud or native cloud?
Hybrid.
People manager or project manager?
People.
All right, I knew you'd say people. I could have got that for you. Hey, I'm out of questions.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Kate. You are the reason we're here today. I greatly appreciate it. I'm indebted to you helping me get this thing started. In fact, more than help. I mean, you did all the hard work. I appreciate it.
Oh, well, no problem. And it's awesome to be on as a guest. And I know, this will continue to be successful. And I'm always happy to jump in and help anytime you need it.
I know you are. Well, tell Hainu and the team, I appreciate them. I miss them. They're doing great work. You're doing great work around content. And I fully expect that it's only going to get better.
Thanks, Al. And it was great chatting with you.
Thank you. And for the listeners, as always, we'll see you on the podcast. Let us know how we're doing. almartintalksdata@gmail.com. Talk to you next time. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Making Data Simple podcast, where we make data fun. Be sure to visit ibmbigdatahub.com/podcast to access the show notes and uncover even more great episodes. Remember, the views expressed here are those of the host and its guests, and do not necessarily represent the views of IBM. Until next time,
Let's go.
over and out.